Well, welcome to our next session, Finding Community. We've got our wonderful panel here, led by our very own Catherine Benfield, Chrissie, Keats, Mike and Sophie. Brilliant. So there's a huge wealth of experience here and a huge diversity in terms of their what they bring to the party. I'll let them introduce themselves because they'll do a much better job, but without much more of ado, over to you, Catherine.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to our chat today on finding a community while we're recovering from OCD. We know, I've heard a lot of people talk about it already this morning, that OCD can be massively isolating. We can feel like we're on our own. And a balm for that, for a lot of us, is finding some sort of community. And that can either be within the OCD community as a whole, it can be outside the community. So we're going to have a little chat about that today, how to keep yourself safe, how to find communities, how to know when it's time to move on, and maybe your needs have been met in one community, it's time to move on to another. So we've got a lot to cover. My name is Catherine Benfield. I am a blogger at Taming Olivia. I write a lot about using compassion and creativity to recover from OCD after I dealt with really awful intrusive thoughts after having my son in 2012. I'm exec producer of a film about intrusive thoughts called Waving, and I am also, from earlier on this year now, privileged enough to be in a position of being a trustee at OCD Action. I've got a wonderful panel today to talk about this. Guys, could you just spend a couple of minutes letting everyone know who you are and what you do?
Yep. Hello, my name is Chrissie Hodges. I've been an advocate probably for about 10 years, specifically talking about the theme pure OCD with intrusive thoughts and mental rituals. So started my advocacy doing talks around Denver. I live in Colorado, public speaking, started speaking at the IOCDF conference several years, and then went into YouTube, where I have a YouTube channel where I talk all things pure OCD. I tend to focus pretty much on the OCD experience of living with it, and especially the taboo, repugnant, unacceptable, intrusive thoughts. That tends to be what I gravitate to the most. I'm the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist through the state of Colorado, and I also work with people around the world, providing peer support and referral consultations, as well as running groups internationally for specifically for peer support, and I'm the founder and the executive director of OCD Gamechangers.
Thanks.
Wow.
Sophie?
Wow, how do I follow that? So, I'm Sophie Suri. I've had OCD since I was, I think, about 8 years old. I started my advocate journey probably about 5 years ago, very much following from Catherine and watching Chrissie. And I have since become an advocate for the International OCD Foundation, so travel a lot to the States to help with work. And I'm a researcher, so my research is with the National Institute of Health and Research and Teesside University, and looking very much at the lived experience of OCD, very much looking at self-management and what OCD is like. The physical aspects of OCD is kind of what I'm concentrating on at the moment. So lovely to be here.
Yep.
Hi everyone, I am Nikita Roberts, but I'm known with OCD Action as Keats. I have had OCD since I was about 8 years old, was officially diagnosed when I was 18. I started volunteering with OCD Action 2 years ago this month, and I've progressed into being a lead volunteer and running my own couple of support groups, which I found really helpful in helping other people as well as myself. So yeah, that's me.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming to the talk. It's really lovely to see everybody here. So my name's Mike. I've had OCD for over 30 years, and the condition used to absolutely rule my life, and actually went through a stage of making me very, very unwell. Unfortunately, I had more than one going treatment, and I had relapse, depression, anxiety alongside it. But I was able to understand the condition better than ever. I was able to make steps in treatment, get the right support, and reclaim a life that I love, that's full of purpose, full of meaning, that's happy. And joining OCD Action as a volunteer has been one of the best things I've ever done. I am so proud and honoured to be a volunteer for OCD Action. So where I facilitate some support groups for them, including the men's group, and I also am involved in navigating services. I'm very passionate about us all having a brighter future for anybody affected by OCD.
Thank you very much, everyone. What a gang. Right, we're going to start off just having a bit of chat about the importance of community for when we have OCD. It's not always easy to join a community. It can be very isolating. Chrissie, why do you think belonging to a community is so important for those of us living with OCD?
When I look at my OCD journey, I lived with OCD for 12 years before I had any idea what OCD was. This was back in the day. We didn't have any internet. I couldn't just go on and Google search what was going on at the time. I also wasn't in a position to be able to talk with my parents about it for various reasons. And so I lived with this disorder having no idea, completely isolated. Until a suicide attempt when I was 20, which was about 1997. When I was diagnosed with OCD then and hospitalized, I then directly went into what I like to call the emotional stigma of the disorder. And so for the next 10 to 13 years, I would say, after effective treatment. So I was able to access effective treatment with Dr. Stephen Phillipson in New York when I was 20 over the phone. I had phone therapy with him. And after that, I was considering myself to be in recovery. But when in reflection, this was symptom recovery. And what I was not able to do is to access emotional recovery, which I think is a really important part of the recovery of OCD and something I think that many of us have to continue to work on as we get older and as we learn to manage the disorder more. For that 13 years after treatment for OCD, I was just shrouded in shame about the experience, the trauma of what I lived through with OCD, the suicide attempt, hospitalization, the content that I had dealt with, and I was not able to tell anybody what would happen. And I often say to people, I don't know what was worse, the 12 years of having the symptoms or the 13 years after of being alone and even knowing what I was going through, even in having effective treatment. So I really think the remedy for me was when I became an advocate, my sole goal was, I know y'all are out there. I know people are out there. I'm going to find them. And the way I'm going to find them is YouTube. So I'll just go out there and just put the weirdest shit content on. Talk about the groinals and everything else. I know y'all are going to come to me. And mainly so I didn't feel so alone. And what I really have found in the last 10 years of doing this advocacy is community has been one of the biggest healers for me in my recovery. I would not be where I am at right now without community, without feeling less alone, without knowing that I am not just some freak or monster or weird person walking the planet. Just knowing that you understand me, just by knowing that we have the same disorder, has really just elevated my recovery.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chrissie. Sophie, you out of most people I know have so many little communities that you belong to, or dotted around all over the place. Like, how do you find it? How did it help you finding your little communities?
I think, like Chrissie says, community's played a massive part and still does and will in the future in keeping me well. A number of reasons. I think the community inspires me. When you've got OCD and you see people who haven't got OCD around me doing things and getting on with life, I was like, I don't seem to be getting anywhere, and I seem to be going around in a loop, and I seem to not achieving my goals. And then when I kind of sought to find people like me and met people like Chrissie and Catherine and many other wonderful people on the journey, I realised that actually things are possible. So the community inspired me. I was like, wow, they've got OCD, but they're doing this. Maybe I could try and do something. So that's the inspiration has been a big part. The reminders. The community remind me, like yesterday we were at the OCD Gamechangers event that Chrissie had, and when I hear each speaker, each one of them reminds me of something. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about acceptance. I'm really not practicing that enough. Johnny brought that up a lot. And so they constantly kind of those little reminders of what I do need to do to keep myself well. This is a long-term disorder, but it doesn't mean you can't live a brilliant life. It gives me a sense of purpose. So I feel like I have a PhD, but I feel like I also have a PhD in OCD. In order to navigate OCD and get better, you need to learn. You need to have knowledge. And the amount of knowledge you kind of gain, you're like, well, what can I do with this? And being part of the community gives me a chance to give back. And people who are maybe a few steps behind me, I'm like, oh my God, did you try this? And you know the nuances of, the doctor might say, this might help. But when someone who's actually lived through it, they say, getting up on a morning, if the thoughts are really bad, just give me something practical and small that I can do. So being part of community is a massive tool in my toolbox for keeping well. Joining a community, I have different communities, like Chrissie said, and I have my family and friends who are like community, and I educate them on how to help me. I have to ask them not to give me reassurance. I hate that because I want reassurance, but apparently that keeps me well. So I educate them, so they're like community. I have the OCD community who mean the world to me. Internationally, in the UK, I've been able to travel to Colorado to see Chrissie. I've been able to travel all over, and Germany, and then Catherine in London, and everyone else who's played such a big part in my journey. I'm so grateful. So where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that. I had a point to make. That's it, totally, layers of community. So the community, like the OCD community, and also other communities. So you can join other communities that aren't OCD related. So I'm very big into fitness. So for me, the gym community is massive. And it has helped keep me well in the fact that it gives me routine. When I go to the gym, I have classes to go to. It keeps me physically well, especially with all the effects that anxiety can have on your body. It gives me it gets the endorphins going. And really, I think it's just any community that helps you. I think you have to have different communities. It's nice sometimes to go into a community where I'm not known by my OCD. Yeah. I'm having one of those days where I'm just thinking, I want to just blend. I don't want to be the person with OCD, so I can go to the gym. And not everyone knows I have OCD there. So I think having different communities is good. It's healthy. The diversity, the people you meet, different ages, races, you learn lots. And also you learn about the common humanity. You might go to the gym and you meet people who haven't got OCD, but they're struggling as well with other things. And you realize that, oh, I'm not alone. People are actually having a hard time in life genuinely. So diversity and community helps me massively too.
Thank you very much, Sophie. So we're going to move on just a little bit to talking about keeping ourselves safe in community, because there are some amazing communities out there, both in the world of OCD, outside of OCD, the OCD community. It is really, really important that we talk about how to keep ourselves safe. As social media has grown, and a lot of people who go through recovery, one of the first things you want to do really is start sharing your journey and helping people and address misconception. So at the end of this talk, we're just going to attach 10 minutes to talk about how to build your own community, if that is something that you would like to do. But for now, let's just have a chat about how we can keep ourselves safe. And it's really important. We go through a hard time with OCD, and it's really important that we know that the people we invite in to help us mean the very best for us, and they're going to help. So Chrissie, what kind of signs should we be looking out for when we're looking for our community to show us that they're going to help rather than hinder us?
So this is a really good question and something that I'm really passionate about. So I started doing a YouTube channel about 7-8 years ago, and I very much am like many advocates. I got through to a place where I wanted to give back, and I thought, I just want to share my story, and I want to help people, and I want to do all of this stuff, and quickly learned how dangerous things can get for you and for other people if you are not thoughtful about doing advocacy. yes, I am recovered. Yes, I've been through treatment. But what I have been through in treatment does not work for everybody. The same as these medications don't work for anybody, or these experiences or these people that you might follow are not giving you the kind of assurance that's going to be helpful on your journey. We have to remember that we have OCD. It is the doubting disorder. And one of the things that the internet has brought to us is this ability to just click on and click in and find reassurance really quickly. And a lot of what we do is when we're struggling is we're looking for the key, aren't we? I mean, we can all say we're not doing it, but we all know we are. I'm going to find that one thing that's going to make this go away today, or make this go away for good. And so what happens is when we are in that state of mind, we may start following accounts, or we may, jump on a YouTube channel like mine, and I may say something that, that doesn't resonate with me. That doesn't resonate with my experience. Maybe I don't have OCD. So one of these are the rabbit holes that you can go down. So a couple of the things that I wanted to bring to the table are some questions that you can ask yourself when you are involved. And I'm specifically just going to talk about the internet community because that's where I'm the most engaged. Are you getting triggered by the person, by the community, by the forum, by the content? Are you questioning your recovery? Are you questioning where you're at in your recovery or where you should be? Are you comparing your journey to that person's journey? Does it linger for you afterward? I'm on this forum, I'm in this group, I'm looking at this content, but I'm still thinking about it 8 hours later, and I'm struggling and I'm doubting. Does it create more doubt for you? Is a person rigid or are they flexible in their experience? If they're rigid, be very careful because everybody's recovery is different. And so these are just some of the things that you want to think about. And if those answers to the questions are making you feel negative and about your experience, it is okay to walk away. There are communities out there. There are forums. I know a lot of people on Reddit, but Reddit can be super toxic for people if you're just going in there and you're reading things that are just lingering all day and making things worse for you. I'm going to say this quote that I came up with today.
She was so happy over lunch.
I'm so happy about this. I'm going to stitch it on a pillow. If it's following you into your day, you need to unfollow it. Yes! Pillow stitch. Such a dork.
Thank you very much. We had a little chat. I mean, thank you so much for those considerations. We had a chat, and there's a couple more to add on. We talked about the idea of money. If people are asking you for money, have a really good think about that. Who is it who's asking you for money? What do they want that money for? Where's that money going? What is so good about them that they're actually asking you for money? And
just really quickly.
Yeah.
I just want to piggyback on what she's saying. If someone is asking you for money, ask them for their credentials.
Yeah.
Please ask them if you're exchanging money with someone for treatment, for help, I do peer support. You can ask me for my credentials. I can send my credentials to you. Ask them if they've been supervised by a licensed professional. Ask them what their experience is. Ask them where they've been trained. Yeah. This is really, really important because it protects you and it protects them.
Thank you. And the last thing we also talked about as well, did you mention accountability in your list? We talked about accountability. You've nailed my whole list, by the way. I'm going to have to fill 20 minutes. Sorry, everyone, I might say. So we basically talked about the idea of accountability as well. And if you do not have an organisation, someone who is qualified, if something goes wrong or if you hear something that's not helpful, who is protecting you? So you need to think about that all the time. What is this information and what is the follow-up if I need extra help as a result of it? One of the ways that we can really help with that is with OCD Action. I didn't realise until I became a trustee that OCD Action actually has over 50 support groups, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to hand over to Keith just to tell us a little bit about how OCD Action kind of tries to make sure as much of it as it can that its support groups are safe for everybody.
Yeah. So we like the support groups to obviously bring people together and so they feel in a safe environment. To do that, we have ground rules for our groups. The members, they get it in their email with like a list of the ground rules, but just in case, because we all know not everyone reads the small print. So when a group starts, we do, like the 2 facilitators on the group will give a summary of those ground rules. This can include things like we ask that, they're in a safe space, they're not in like a public area where they're talking and also other members sharing. We also let them know that all the groups are peer-led, which means that we cannot give advice. We let them know we cannot give advice. But the main thing is we can provide support. We can, direct them to our helpline if things need signposting. And yeah, we do. We make sure that that's like each group has that safe space where people feel absolutely comfortable. And we also make it very aware that they don't have to share. If they want to just come along and listen, that's absolutely fine. I think a lot of the time people think, oh, if I join this group, I've got to commit to that, and that's not the case at all. We say, like, if that group's not for you or if it triggers you, absolutely fine. We want to position you into one that does suit you. And I think as a facilitator of some of our groups, and I know you'll agree with me on this, Mike, is the fact that we as facilitators get a lot out of it, and our main job is to make sure that everyone does feel safe and feel like they can be supported and just feel comfortable to share, really.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, so I've spoken a lot about my story of OCD recovery, and I'm not going to talk about it very much, but what I will say was that community changed for me as I moved through my recovery. So I started off, neck deep in the Reddit groups that talked a lot about intrusive thoughts, just to validate what I was feeling and let me know I wasn't the only one. As I went through recovery, I started doing a bit of advocacy. I started joining general mental health groups that weren't just specific to OCD. And then as I got better, I started to join groups that were completely outside the mental health community, because I didn't feel that now I needed to explain that I wasn't well to people. I could actually turn up and be well enough to do a swimming session or a football game or something, So it kind of grew as I grew and gained through recovery. So knowing when, how do we find a good community for us? What kind of things should we be looking at Chrissie, to let us know that maybe the community we're in now is no longer serving us? Maybe earlier on in our recovery it did, but maybe it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm. Great question. And I think just to emphasize what I was saying earlier is, we with OCD, we tend to believe that we don't have any sort of intuition whatsoever. We sometimes don't trust ourselves. In recovery, we have to learn these things, and that's unfortunate. But as you grow in your recovery, you can start to trust how you're feeling. You can start to trust your reactions, and that's one of the things I really emphasize for people is what is kind of exactly what Catherine is saying. As you're moving through your recovery, things are going to change just as things change as we get older. We also change in our own recovery. And so what is serving you? And is it serving you in the community? And what does that mean to you? Kind of like some of the things I brought up before. What does it feel like when you are part of a community? How does that feel? Is it making you feel good? Is it making you feel motivated and inspired? Or is it bringing you down? Is it making you doubt more? Is it making you compare your recovery to other people? And that's a big one, I feel like. And that's something that a lot of us get caught up with, especially if the internet is our main support and is our main community, is that we can get in there and it can become comparative. And that's when we can get really down on our recovery. And so I think really just trusting how you are feeling in the group, and if it's moving you forward in your recovery instead of keeping you stagnant or making you move steps back.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Chrissie. Sophie, how do you work out what community might suit you? Because I remember By the time I hit recovery, I had no idea who I was. I think the last time I felt reasonable, I was 6. The same enjoyment things were not, it wasn't the same life. I wasn't the same person. And I had to Google what people did for fun and what hobbies people liked doing. And I found it utterly, utterly terrifying. I had to start from ground up. Like, how did you work out what it is you like doing? Because you've got to do that before you even go about finding your group, haven't you?
I think that's so true. People used to ask me, what's your favourite this? What's your favourite movie? What's your favourite song? And I was like, I don't know, because I've been ruminating about something really, really ridiculous for hours most days. So I don't know what my favourite things are. So like Catherine said, recovery is very much about exploration again, about yourself, what you like, what you don't like. But for me, I didn't really know what I needed. I just needed someone to understand me, someone to get it. The OCD community there were people there who I didn't really have to say much, and you could see them nodding as though, yeah, my head does that too. And suddenly that feeling of I'm not alone, I do belong. I think for me, a key thing was affiliations. We're talking again about keeping yourself safe in communities, making sure that the community you're going to is affiliated with someone or has got, like they say, some sort of credentials. Are they linked to OCD Action? Plugging OCD Action support groups and Gamechangers and like the OCD Stories is a fantastic camp. So it's making sure that you're going to places that are affiliated, and that was important when I was looking at what I sort of needed was someone who I could trust. Could I trust what they were going to tell me? And a lot of it's trial and error. I've been part of communities that I've dipped in and thought, I don't think this is for me. Just like you would in anything else. Food, you try a food, no, don't like it. And again, like Chrissie says, you learn to trust yourself, that inner knowing. It's like, do you know what, I don't think that one's for me. But there's so many communities out there. So a lot is trial and error. Speaking to people who are, when I say well-known, I mean people who've got good experience of being in different communities. How can you help me? Do you know any communities that are good? Go to OCD Action and ask, okay, this is what I'm not sure exactly what I need, but this is what I'm struggling with. So trial and error, looking through what your values are. Does that group align with what your values are as a person? Have a think, what do I value in life? What's important to me? And does this group kind of embody that? If they don't, then it might not be for you. So the trial and error is a very big part of it, and I think as you grow and change through OCD and different life things happen, you might join different communities, and again, the trial and error. But don't be scared to try, but just make sure you're doing it in a way where you're doing it with people who are trustworthy. I've been part of a certain group that wasn't, and I wouldn't want any of you to go down those sort of paths. So making sure that the people are trustworthy and affiliated is very, very important, because otherwise your needs are not going to be met.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Chrissie and Sophie. OCD Action, as I said earlier, do like 50 different support groups. They cater for so many different people, so many different needs within OCD recovery. Mike and Keats, can I hand over to you to just tell us a bit more about what you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. So Keats and I are part of an absolute awesome team of staff and volunteers, and we're really proud to say that we provide over 50 support groups per month. Those support groups can take place on Zoom or over the phone. As Keats mentioned, every support group has 2 facilitators in, and we look to support everybody on their individual journey. And whilst we know that OCD, we have general OCD groups and general BDD groups, but whilst we know that OCD, there's individual subtypes of OCD, we know that it always follows the same cycle. There's always the same obsessions, doubts, reassurance, compulsions. There's always the same things, no matter what the theme is on OCD. So it's really nice for us to have the general groups, but at the same time, it's also really, really important we recognise with the subtypes and different categories of OCD, it's important we actually have support groups for those groups too. So if somebody's dealing with a particular theme of OCD, it's really going to be a big support for them to actually be in a group where that's the focus of the group. So they can feel supported, they can feel like other people are on very much the same journey that I'm on here, and we can share and create a really important community together. And we also really listen to our members as well, because we listen to what our members say, and we always try and come up with monthly themes that are going to be something that's coming up that's important. If our members say this would be important for us and we'd like to maybe explore groups on this, we listen to those. And we actually put in place groups alongside what the members have mentioned. And one of those groups at the moment is actually the impact of waiting for treatment. That's a new group we've actually introduced. And Keats actually facilitates that one herself.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That is one of our newer groups. It's only been run a couple of times at the moment, but being like a facilitator for that group, and obviously like the other groups as well, is you get to know the members, which is something that's so important because you get to see them on their journey, and it's great when, you know, someone's started off and they're feeling unsure and they attend and they don't turn the camera on, which is absolutely fine. They don't have to. But then as they keep coming along, you'll see like they get support from the other members, and it's great to like actually see. They'll then put the camera on, they'll get involved, they'll talk in the chat box. It's like seeing your kid go to school and, you know.
Oh, they're all grown up.
Yeah, feeling really proud of them. But yeah, you get to, you know, and we say to them, if they come and they're feeling a bit like they've had a bad time, they don't have to get involved. When you come to a group, we ask that, you know, you attend once every 3 months, just to keep you like registered and stuff. But we make it completely clear that there is never pressure to speak, to put your camera on if you're just having a bit of a bad day. I think it's also really important as well to mention that not everything when doing the groups is smooth sailing. There's times where things can happen, which means it can affect the other members, they can trigger the other members. But that's why I absolutely am so proud and love to be part of the team, because we really focus on making sure, like there's a whole team like that works behind the scenes, making sure that the support groups run smooth, and if there is any like triggers or bad things that happen, there's that support always there. And I think we foster and nurture everything to make us have a great sense of community spirit. I am really proud.
And on that community spirit, we really, really want to, can't stress enough that we want you to come to the groups as your authentic self in that present moment. There is no, we believe that true community is you don't have to come and put a brave face on it and say, oh, I've got to be like this because other people in the group are like this today. No, we want you to show up exactly how you are at that time as your authentic self. If it's been a better period, we're here to walk with you on that and be in that moment with you and support you as a group. If things are really, really tough right now, we are absolutely here to walk by your side during that time, support you as a group. There is no, I need to be X to go to group. No, we want you to come as your authentic self, and however you come, we will support you and walk by your side.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I don't think we can underestimate actually how hard you guys work and what a nurturing and supportive environment you make for the support groups in OCD Action. That's just wonderful, thank you. If people were interested in signing up to an OCD Action support group, how would they go about it?
So we have a list of all our groups on the OCD Action website. Members can go on there, they can send an email to say which ones they're interested in. It's also, like I mentioned before, important that if they struggle with hoarding, for example, they might attend the hoarding group and think, oh, it's a bit triggering. That's fine, they can come out. We'll try our best to find them a group that is more suited to them. We do have a sign-up process, and we've got like fabulous admin team that really work hard to get people in the right groups.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was just a bit of admin. I apologise. Chrissie, you wanted to just add, thank you so much, you guys. Chrissie just wanted to add a little something onto that.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize some of the things that you were saying about the groups that is really important when we're talking about community and we're talking about helpers, people that want to give back as advocates or people that want to give back. Keith said, or what did you say? Oh no, now it's slipping my mind. Don't worry, it will come back. Some of the things that, this is what you said, in the groups and in general, we as advocates, it's not our job to give advice. You might disagree with me, but it is dangerous. It's dangerous to give advice on mental health. It's dangerous to give advice on medication. It's dangerous to say to people, well, this is what worked for me, and so you should try it. We're not therapists. Advocates are not therapists. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I'm not a therapist. It's not my job to tell people what to do. It not only protects, and so in talking about the support group, meeting people where they're at, what that also means is being trauma informed. Like, I'm informed about the trauma that people have gone through, and these are the things that happen when you're trained or when you're working as a facilitator. It's so important that we have to protect the people that we're advocating to. We have to protect them. We also have to protect ourselves. If you're an advocate and you're giving advice on the DMs of Instagram and somebody comes back and says, what you just said makes me want to die by suicide, what are you going to do? Now you're in danger. Now you're stressed out. It's so very important to understand what your role is in support versus advice. So I just wanted to emphasize that. I also wanted to say the way that their language is when they're talking about the groups, you can see that the groups are all about the participants. It's not about the facilitators. If you are out there seeking help, looking for the key, like we all do, and you come across someone and it seems like they're too good to be true,
they probably are.
They're too good to be true. Just trust that we really want to save the treatment aspect and the advice coming from the professionals that have been trained and supervised and have the experience.
Yeah, know your role and keep in your lane.
Yeah.
Definitely stay in your lane, because otherwise it's not good for you. You're taking on responsibility that is not yours, and it's not good for the person you're helping either. So yeah, stay in your lane. We've been given the 10.
We are. No. We're moving on to that. So our last few minutes, I've got a sign here saying, time in here, Catherine. We've loads
I've just seen the 10.
I know, we all love to chat when we're together. Right, the last 10 minutes, 10 minutes, we're just going to have a natter about the idea of building community, because I know for a lot of us, we are, a massive part of my recovery has been advocating for OCD. I was furious that the world didn't understand OCD, and I wanted to find people who were just like me and had lived the same experiences. It's really, really important that we're careful about when we build our communities. So, Mike, could you just tell us a little bit? There is a new OCD Action support group for men that you are running. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. I'm incredibly passionate about our men's groups. I'm incredibly passionate about all the groups we have. But as a guy, sitting in silence for so long with OCD, and even when I first got treatment, not really discussing it out in the world, but now I do. I'm incredibly passionate about it. So we have two men's groups. We have a Zoom group and we have a phone group. And I think it's really, really important for us to find that community for everybody. But for men, we know that we feel these pressures under society to almost put a brave face on everything. Like we've got to figure it all out on our own with no help from no one else. And we carry more and more on our shoulders, and we're busy taking care of everyone around us. But to truly take care of those people around us, we've got to take care of ourselves. And as guys, it can be, we're not always used to, especially guys like my age, used to that thing of opening up and maybe chatting with each other. Mental health wasn't discussed when I was at school, but it's getting better now, but we've still got a way to go. So what we want to create for the men's group, and I'm proud to say we are creating that, is a truly safe space that guys can come and get support for their OCD and BDD journey, wherever they are on that journey. There is no comparison. There is no judgment. We want guys just to know that we are there to offer them ongoing support. No matter where they are on their journey, we will support them. And they can come and they can share as much as they want to, and they can talk between everybody, and we can really foster and nurture an environment for men going forward where it's perfectly easy for them, or easier for them, to come forward and speak about their OCD, because I know that would have benefited me so much. And that's where the vision is to say that we really want to build a community for men within the groups that really creates a path that men can, and I can say that the other side to that is that this can transform your life in so many areas. Opening up and being vulnerable and getting help and support has transformed my life, from the way I communicate to the relationships that I build, the compassion I now show to myself. This can really, the view from the other side is brilliant. And we are here to absolutely, walk alongside and be there to support, men through that.
Thank you so much, Mike. I've worked with Mike for about a month now, and your passion is just contagious. I think everyone would be really lucky to come to your group personally. I wish I could come.
If I was a guy, I could.
Yeah. You'll have to chuck us out. So, Chrissie, I want to talk about you for a minute, right? Because Chrissie started OCD Gamechangers. It's a charity, it's a non-profit, isn't it?
501c3.
Yeah. And I've gone to a couple of chats with Chrissie's Gamechangers. You'll be hard pushed alongside OCD Action to find a community that's so welcoming and so supportive. It's absolutely wonderful. It's international now, as Chrissie said. You've also touched on the need to be quite careful, and how if you do decide to start a community, if you are going to be having vulnerable people with OCD contacting you, you need to be able to look after yourself too. So can you just talk a little bit about the kind of boundaries that you put in, or how you've learned to look after yourself? Because I know in this room there'll be probably lots of people who fancy setting up an Instagram page for OCD advocacy. What kind of things should they be thinking?
Absolutely, great question. I started OCD Gamechangers in 2017 on the way home from the IOCDF conference, knowing I wasn't going to see all those wonderful people for a year, and I was crying the whole way home on the plane. I was like, I can't go a year. So in about 8 months, I decided on the way home I was going to pull in about 8 advocates at that time, grassroots advocates, and reached out to them and said, do y'all want to come to Denver, and I'll rent an Airbnb and we'll do a little event, and I just want to see y'all. And everybody said yes, including Stuart Ralph. And so when Stuart Ralph said I'll fly across the ocean, I was like, we got to do this now.
To do it.
And so one of the things so anyway, that's how Gamechangers started. It evolved into a 501c3, and over the years, Alejandro's here, he's on my board over there, Marshall is on my board over there. Over the years, we have really honed in on what, basically, I wanted to create a community. I didn't know what to do, so I was just like, I'm gonna do this and see what happens. And some of the safeguards are: surround yourself with people that you trust, surround yourself with people that will check you, surround yourself that people will hold you accountable the same way that you can hold them accountable. The people on my board through the years have just been outstanding advocates that I can trust. They're in it because they're altruistic. They're in it for the community. And so the safeguard to me, and what Gamechangers does, is we seek out people that are doing really amazing work, invite them to come and speak. Or if you're somewhere and you want Gamechangers to come to you, come to us and say, hey, we want you to come to Scotland. I want to go to Scotland. So somebody come to me and say, do you want to go to Scotland?
Any Scots in the room?
So a lot of that is, and of course, being a nonprofit, you have to safeguard anyway on a board. You have to follow the regulations and everything. But again, find the people that are doing the work for the community, surround yourself, and be willing to take constructive criticism the same way that you're willing to hold other people accountable.
Thank you so much. I've just been showing the 5 minutes reading, so I'm just going to start wrapping up. I love hearing from people who have OCD, and I love talking to people. I've worked in advocacy for about 9 years, and I feel like I've got a doctorate in advocacy as well. I know I don't. And so when people message me asking for medical help, I send them straight through to OCD Action. So a brilliant way of managing to spread the word, but then also supporting yourself, looking after yourself, is sending through to people who you know have the answers, who are the medical professionals as well, or the charities who have professionals on the board. And that's what I was saying about accountability as well. You always want to have someone along that journey who you can trust and who really knows their stuff. They have those qualifications. I think we're done. I just want to say...
I've got 2 things I wanted to say.
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? Have we got time? Am I going to give him a 3-minute warning?
Do it, Si.
2 things I think with being an advocate, one thing that can be hard is how much do I share of my story? And
yeah,
I think it's key. One thing Catherine said, this was quite a few years ago when I first started doing advocate work, and someone was asking all these questions, and on the spot I felt very intimidated, like I had to give everything, all these answers. And Catherine was like, no, you make a list of the things that you don't want to talk about, that are too raw, too close to home, or you change the narrative a little bit. And I always remember that now when I go into anything, an interview, a podcast, I think, not going to talk about these because they're going to trigger me, they're too close to home. And another thing I wanted to bring up was, I think when we're advocating, we need to keep coming back to why we're doing it. So ask yourself, why am I doing this? And every single one of us is human. We all have an ego, and we all want, oh my God, I just got more followers. I just got this. If that's the reason, and we're all guilty of it, I'm guilty of it, thinking, wow, I've got more followers. And it's not healthy because it affects
It's not about the community.
It's not about the community. You're getting too much into, like, it's about me. So I think very much you've got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And the answers to that should be, I want to give back. I want to help. So keep checking in at every couple of months. Why am I doing this? What's my why? And your why needs to come from the altruistic kind of side. That'll keep you well. And it'll keep everyone else well, and it'll keep the community well. It's about everyone in the community has a role to play. No one is better than anyone else. Every single person, no matter where you are on your journey, has just as much power and just as much reason to be there. So it's about knowing that, be your authentic self. No one else will be like you. You do have a place in the community. I always thought, oh my God, am I like them? Am I like them? I'm not. I'm like me. This is me, and this is my place in the community, and only I can take that. And each one of you, don't think, oh, well, I could never do that. You have your own place. It doesn't matter what you do, you have your own place, but make sure it's rooted in your why. And now I'll stop because I might get thrown off.
You won't get thrown off. I'm really glad you stopped me doing that. I'm so sorry to interrupt you because they were excellent points.
She's like, y'all need
yes, I'm coming.
The boot.
OCD is massively isolating, and a brilliant balm to that can be finding your tribe, finding your people. And I really hope that through this and the knowledge that my amazing panellists have kind of shared today, that you are able to do that. Thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to having a little chat with you outside.
Thank you. Awesome job, you all.